Hey guys, Artosis here, bringing you some more CasterMuse Narak StarLeague. Right now we are in Group C, and this is the loser match. Whoever is eliminated this game is out of the tournament. The winner, of course, will go on to play Spire in the final game to see who will go on to that round of 16. Up in the top right, we have the very experienced Protoss player, Motive. And in the top left, a Terran player I'm keeping my eye on because he's kind of an exciting story. It's Fleta. And now, if you missed some of the other casts already in the group, Fleta is a very young player. He won the Africa TV School League in 2020, which meaning, of course, that he was still in school in 2020, so still pretty young. But he won it as Protoss, and we almost never see a race swap at that level, or especially of Protoss to Terran. So that's very, very exciting. I think he played pretty well in his first game against Killer, but definitely was not strong enough to take Killer down, who ended up winning the group. Not a big surprise there. Killer is definitely an ASL level player. But yeah, let's see what Fleta can do here against Motive. Now, of course, I favor Motive, but one thing to consider is Fleta was a Protoss main, at least a couple years ago, right? So that means he's going to have some additional insight into this matchup about what's hard for Protoss to deal with, you know, what he didn't like playing against, things like that. So that's kind of exciting. I think that, you know, when someone switches a race like that, you can see a lot of power in the matchup against the race they used to play. Now, again, you don't see many people switching races like that, but it's certainly something that I've noticed over time. Now, one thing to mention, this is an 11-11, so this is going to give him a faster factory. It cuts his economy a little tiny bit, like he'll begin the factory and then the second depot most likely, which means, you know, a little bit of SCV cutting, a little bit slower on that. But maybe going to give him some aggressive options. We'll see about that. And a lot of times when you see a build like this, it's not actually for aggressive options because Terran doesn't have great aggressive options in the early game against Protoss. But what it can do is, like, for instance, if your opponent is trying to play aggressive, you just have those extra units. Or if your opponent's doing something like a Nexus first, your units are quicker. Because, see, this is probably, I would say, about 8 seconds, 7-8 seconds faster than a factory normally is. And, I mean, those numbers maybe don't sound huge to people watching, but believe me, when you're looking at this level of play, something like that is pretty astounding, right? Like, for instance, if it's 7 seconds quicker, let's say the first Dragoon is coming over immediately, your Vulture will actually be out of here before the Dragoon gets here. That's just, like, that's one small thing that can change it. You know, the difference of 7 seconds, I guess, is the right way to put it. So anyways, this factory going to be finishing up relatively soon. He is going for a very, very fast Dragoon here. In fact, this Dragoon was extremely fast from Motive. They normally pop at 312. That was like a 308 Dragoon. So definitely was not expecting that. It's coming very quickly across the map. But with a Vulture coming out and 2 Marines, he should be able to hold on against it. But actually, if the probe meets at the same time, this could get like a little bit messy. Motive, I think Motive should be diving here immediately with such a quick Dragoon. And see, he does bring the probe up. The probe tanks a couple hits. Yeah, this is really annoying as a Terran player, I have to say. Okay, that probe didn't end up doing too much other than tanking. Oh, wow. He actually gets 2 Red Marines in the bunker. How crazy is that? So both players really getting out their first military units very, very quick. And like, no one has a particular advantage right now. The fact that he kept both Marines alive and popped them in the bunker is amazing for Fleta. I really thought he was going to end up losing one or both Marines, which is annoying, but not game ending. Over on this side, Motive does have his Nexus almost halfway done. Command Center is not very far behind, so Fleta is completely fine here as well. 3rd depot on the way, getting those mines. He will be making a 2nd Vulture. And of course, this Vulture, it's already taken a couple hits from the Dragoon. Right, so he's got to be careful for it. It has 4 Dragoon shots worth of health left on it, and you got to be careful, man. If you end up losing that first Vulture when you're going for a mines opener, that is extremely painful. Like, extremely painful. If you go for a mines opener, you really need the first Vulture to survive. Whether that is to lay anti-DT mines, or to lay trapping mines against Dragoons, or to even lay mines at your opponent's other bases. There's all sorts of different ways you can utilize it, but you gotta utilize it. Now, taking a quick look at Motive, look at this. He's going into 3-gate plus robotics. So this is going to be Observer's 3-gate Observer he's incredibly safe. It just kind of holds off anything that Terran can do early. But the actual build that Fleta is doing here is a good counter against it. He's going for the armory very, very quickly. The eBay is kind of the cheapest way to make yourself completely safe as well. And yeah, like all these extra Dragoons and Observers aren't actually going to do anything because he will be getting siege mode pretty quickly here. And with the quick upgrade, this is kind of the natural counter to what Motive is doing. Whereas, let's say that Fleta wanted to go for a 2-factory pressure build. A build like this will absolutely stomp it. You'll just have way too many Dragoons. You have the Observer to check for mines. And the Terran player will get bowled over very, very quickly. But as is, going to be good for Fleta, who just kind of continues to macro up, getting his second gas. He's laid a few mines defensively here. You can see some great mine coverage here on the path as well as the Nexus. Couple on the paths over here, but no mine up in this area. So luckily here for Motive, it looks like he should be able to get his third Nexus up very safely, very quickly. The Observer is out, and he is starting to move across now with a few of these Dragoons. These Dragoons left behind because he doesn't want a Vulture backstab to come in and ruin him. He doesn't actually know where the Vultures are, and then he moves these out of the way. That's kind of risky. Like, the Vultures could have been down here and dealt some damage, but they were not. They were over here, and now he is pushing forward rather quickly. How fast is Siege? Siege is going to be here just in time to save him, I think. He's going to have to pull SCVs, though. Oh, God. Oh, no. And, well, that's, okay, he does end up saving it. Ooh, that looked a little bit risky for a moment. This was actually a very fast Observer push out of Motive. This is like a soft counter to mine openers that we saw here from Motive as well. The Siege was actually exactly on time. Like, you want to start Siege by 6 minutes to make sure you don't die to these moves, and that's like exactly when he started it. So I feel like we're seeing, I mean, nothing super out of the ordinary from these guys. It's all like pretty standard stuff, pretty solid stuff that we're seeing. Fleta continuing to just macro up very normally. That's a very quick starport to continue these upgrades. Definitely need to get it that quickly. Third Nexus is coming up. So we're going to see a bunch of macro coming out of Fleta. But the thing I'm most interested in here for our Terran player is where does he get, or when does he get, rather, his third command center? Because that's kind of the tricky thing. If your opponent goes for a bunch of gateways right away and you make your third command center very quickly, that can be a little bit problematic for you because you're not going to have enough units to take your third. Whereas if you make a bunch of factories and your opponent plays a little bit more greedily, they're going to have a stronger mid game. So we'll see how he sets that up. Some good siege tank spreads, as you can see, very defensive. He's worried about a possible Reaver drop coming in. There's the Academy to start getting some scouting done as to what the actual tech is over here for Motive. Like, he wants to know, is this going to turn into a Reaver game? Is it going to turn into a carrier game, which is not very likely. Like, if it was a carrier game, that would be a very strange follow-up. Or is it going to be an Arbiter game? Right? And in this case, of course, we can see it's going to be that Reaver game, which is completely fine. It's like pretty standard stuff. Speed on the way for this shuttle. We have good saturation over here. Very similar as far as the worker counts go. So that's some great production that has occurred here from Fleta. He's done a fantastic job of keeping that worker count up in comparison to Motive. A lot of times Protoss does run away with the workers just slightly in the early game. Now +2 is on the way. +1 armor also. 3 factories continuing to produce, and here comes that Reaver. He does have some mines set up, and of course, as the mines pop, he does want to pick that back up. Okay. Yeah, he's going to try to screw around with his ults a little bit. Honestly, he's not really going to find damage here. We'll probably see a turret go down, and oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. This is wild. You almost never see a move like this, to be honest. Like a dropship at this speed off of 3 factories while going 2-1. It's not very common. You're kind of low on units, and you kind of don't expect this to really do much. Like, look, 3 Dragoons there, a cannon here. I don't, like, obviously this is not going to do much. Fleta seems to think like it's a good idea, but we'll see about that. Yeah, it gets pushed back extremely quickly. Does not find any damage right there. Drops off a couple vultures, which is fine. Just lay a few mines down here and there. I guess no harm, no foul, but, you know, this did cost him 150 for the add-on, which you wouldn't normally get yet, as well as that dropship. Not the end of the world, though. Not the end of the world. So there is the third command center coming up after a couple more factories. So 5 factory, 2-1 on the way. Dropship is out. Comm stats are up. So kind of crossing all his T's, dotting all his I's, adding some more factories here as well. Let's take a look over at Motive's side. Adding a lot of gateways here. You can see both of them at 60 workers. And Templar Archives coming up for Motive. So certainly Psystorm is going to be next. We'll see if he tries to flood gateway units. That can be a very popular thing, to go Reaver into like this 4th base type of play, and then a bunch of gateways, and then just kind of sit in an arc on a map like this, where you're saying, okay, you want to take your 3rd base? We're going to attack, move into that. So what's going to happen here is these Reavers are going to slow down anything that comes out. Siege tanks do have longer range, but you really have to leapfrog quite a few times to push the Reavers back. And if things get out of position, and it takes too long for Fleta to get down here, then what we'll see is Motive attack moving in likely with all of these Zealots and Dragoons. Notice how many Zealots are coming up. That really shows what his intention is. Right, yeah, he's popping out some High Templars too. He does want some Psystorms. Of course, there is a clock on Terran to push out. If you're pushing out in a big ball to take your 3rd base, and you're all clumped up and they already have Psystorm, you're going to lose. So you have to watch for that. Now here comes the Vultures and Tanks. Goliath's leading the way. See, he's trying to get some Scarabs. Doesn't quite get it. Picks them up before taking any damage there. And you can see that leapfrogging taking place. The Zealots actually have not been pulled up yet. I'm a little bit surprised about that. I thought that he would kind of get into position, but, you know, the Observer sees these are some excellently placed high ground tanks. These really do a lot of supporting. You basically can't kill these. Like, you could dive the Reavers on top and try something, but probably not a good idea. So I'm loving what I'm seeing here defensively from Fleta. But here comes the army. It's a maxed out army against 140. So 140 is what you need to be able to hold this off. We'll see if he's able to, though. In comes the first shuttle. It doesn't really do anything. Second shuttle comes in, loses it with 3 High Templars, and it gets 1 Psystorm off. But the Zealots getting on top of absolutely everything here. Oh my god. But those high ground siege tanks really making the difference here. Honestly, like, these 4 tanks saved the day. If these were actually down here, that would have been much, much worse. Instead, it seems like Fleta has done a pretty good job. More Zealots and Dragoons coming out. Fleta maybe not macroing as well as he needs to. He really needs to be flooding units down here. He needs to reset his rally points and make sure that they're all here, because this is a huge army that just keeps coming by here from Motive. Fleta now coming down 13 minutes and 10 seconds. Finally going to get his command center down. And here we go. In comes the shuttle. Going to drop off. Ooh, even the tanks on the high ground. That's a nice move right there, putting a Zealot up there. It is going to end up killing at least 1 siege tank, but held off once again. These high ground siege tanks doing so much work for Fleta right now. Or Zealots running in very quickly here from Motive. Motive just not really giving an inch, man. Look at that. The command center starts to float back. It's so difficult to actually come down and take this 3rd base. Like, I swear to God, I have so many games myself that look exactly, literally exactly like this, minus the dropship that we saw from Fleta. You know, Protoss just macros up so quickly, gets this arc, and it's very hard to push down into it. All right. So, another Nexus coming up. That's the 5th base location. Definitely very important as Terran gets 3 bases up. Protoss does want to try to get their 5th going. We have a lot more Psystorm now. And another big army starts to attack in as well. Let's see what this one can actually get done. Some Psystorms coming out. Does start dropping out some High Templars here. Let's see what he gets done. Ooh, a nice one on those SCVs. Ooh, 7 or 8 SCVs going down. But only Dragoons left. He does have to pull these back now. Looks like he will pick off another couple siege tanks, but losing like 4 goons there for that last siege tank. Not sure if that was quite as good a play. Back at these rallies. It's not actually that many gates. It feels like Motive definitely needs to add more, especially with this 5th base being a mineral only coming up. He is up on workers slightly. Looks like he wants to take another Nexus. This is kind of an insane Nexus. Like, this is the easiest thing to push. If you take this Nexus and Fleta starts to take some favorable trades, it is not a very far push from here to here. And once you push, like, to about there, this Nexus and this Nexus are going to be in a lot of trouble. And killing 2 bases from one location is a Terran dream. Really, that is the type of thing you're looking for. By the way, this dropship coming back out, ooh, some fancy micro there, does end up taking down that one Dragoon and maybe can harass this base slightly. It's going to be a little bit annoying for Motive to deal with that, but it's a very low hit point tank, so isn't the end of the world, of course. Looks like we do have, oh, a Psystorm drop in here. End up killing 5 SCVs. Again, not the end of the world. 50 workers with this few patches. He's going to be fine, economically speaking. And this attack was maybe a little bit premature, I would say. I think that right here, you really have to mass up and kind of slow push this area. There's a lot of buildable terrain here, so you can do things like put a couple depots down, put a few missile turrets down. And again, once you get over to this area, it's a very strong place to be. This siege tank, by the way, oh my god, it killed 5 probes and stopped all this mining and killed 2 cannons. Or maybe it was 4 probes, I guess, because it did kill a Dragoon before. But still, very, very high quality drop there, slowing things down here for Motive, at least momentarily. Now, a bunch of vultures trying to rotate here to the south. Trying to set up his 4th base location. So, okay, yeah, now, if he's going to set up this as the 4th base, he has to concentrate a lot of units here. Like, a lot of units here. Like, maybe up here and then a couple up here. And then also, obviously, here. So he's kind of doing like a vertical defense, which will not allow him to attack into these 2 bases. So, like, I get it. You need the 4th base. But is this position going to be good long-term? Because now he's playing against 6 base Protoss. Lots of gateways, lots of Psystorm here. But no real attacking potential, which, I mean, this happens in TVP for sure. Sometimes you just can't attack for a while, but I would like to see him eliminate this base and this base. They're just so close. It's kind of what makes Allegro a decent map for this matchup. Now, a lot of the units moving up. Looks like he's going to leave more sparse defenses down here at 9 o'clock. Moving more of his army up into this area. Now, he's down 50 supply, but 20 of it's in workers. So imagine this being 160. That's a better way to look at the army right now. It is a very strong army. It's 3-2 upgrades against 2-1. So high quality stuff. And here we go. Gonna go ahead and drop Zealots in here. The Zealot drops don't really do too much. They do draw a little bit of tank fire, but he should be able to hold. No real Psystorms coming in at the moment. I thought that was maybe a drop over there. It doesn't look like it was. Another Psystorm should be coming out on top of those Vultures. Very nice. Weakens them quite a bit. Zealots continue to move forward. And, wow, Motive actually did a lot better here than I thought, to be honest. Kind of impressive. I thought that he was going to have to turn around there, but that next little round of Zealots coming down, a few additional Psystorms as well, making a big difference. And suddenly, Fleta is mostly reset. He's down to 48 workers, and he's at 92 supply. That's not a very good supply. You can't really be aggressive with that. And when you look at what's going on, like there's cannons all over the place. He's setting up more Nexuses. It's very, very tough. Because, like, when army sizes get smaller, normally that's where Vultures start to shine. But when you already have this many cannons on these bases, the Vultures can't really do much. Like, really, you need like 20 Vultures to kill this base, for instance, in any reasonable way. So that's a little bit rough. Now, he is trying to move into this position we were talking about before. This is a lot of Zealots coming up, though. We need to have these reinforcements come over ASAP. Looks like a shuttle coming up for some Zealot drops. Wants to try to prevent that. Actually doing an okay job so far. This tank taking a bit of damage. Motive deciding, you know what? Okay, we're going to give this base up. Very excellent to see from Fleta to be able to push that down. He is getting a little bit low, though. Look, no more minerals, no more minerals. So he has 2 mining bases. Now, 2 is enough. You have 3-2 upgrades. Terran can kind of do things on 2 mining bases. But if he ends up losing one, that's going to be pretty much game over. Now, 1 siege tank left over to kill this off. Brings over the rest of his army. Look at this. Retreating immediately, getting into a more defensive position because Motive does want to attack in this direction. He's going after that additional base. Ooh, nice Mind Drive. Gets those tanks very, very red. The goons run up to get the snipes. More goons come and kill the flanking tanks. Those tanks didn't mean to flank, but that's the way that they padded. And now we're looking at the difference in supply and what that's costing him. Look at this. One tank. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He needs to bring these tanks out, bring them to the front lines, because this amount of Dragoons is really beginning to bully him. And even though he killed this base, look at this. Another base should be taken here, just a kind of a mistake that he hasn't yet. Another Nexus in the bottom right as well. So still a much better economy here for Motive. More High Templars are coming. 3-2 upgrades now for Protoss as well. He has that double robo. Funny to see that kind of rotate back in. It's played a little bit differently now than when it first appeared, but definitely useful in a game like this. These speed shuttles have been incredibly important for bombing tanks, dropping off High Templars, getting some Zealots to soak up hits and whatnot. Now a couple Dragoons coming down, trying to pick off some of these mines. The Vulture's not going to have any of that, and here we go. A huge attack move coming in. Just got to bring the rest of those units down. This is a bit of a problem right now. Siege tanks, Psy Storm's going down upon them. And I don't think he's going to hold this position. And in fact, I mean, again, if he loses this, it's basically game over. There's no way you're going to come back and win. And you know what? That is exactly what's happening. He is losing way too many units. It looks like Motive should be able to take this and go to that final match. A pretty cool game from Fleta. GG. Fun to see him, but Motive goes on to face Spire.